everybody. Thank you all for being here. I hope you're all doing well. We are currently waiting for our guest speaker to arrive. So if you could please, in the meantime, take a moment to scan this QR code and sign in. We'd appreciate that. I'll give it a couple of moments for that real quick. And then we'll go on to some general announcements. All right. If anybody still needs to... there he is. All right, everyone, please welcome Greg. Thank you for coming out today to meet us, Greg, virtually. We appreciate your time. We're going to go through a couple of quick announcements first for the club, and then we'll pass it over to you. Yeah. So for those who are new here, please take a moment to scan our Discord and our link trees. These will lead to kind of our main social media platforms, as well as areas for which you can get all of the latest information regarding our club and our activities. I'll leave another moment for that. Hey, Tomas. Yeah, doing all right. Yeah, we're doing good. Feel free to take a seat. Sit down. I'm kidding. All righty. Thank you, Stephen, for putting those in the chats for those online. Hey, welcome. All right. Thank you. All right, moving on to some general club announcements before we proceed. All right, I'm so sorry, if we could please in the room. All right, so moving on to some general club announcements. We have the Cybersecurity and Awareness Fair 2025 coming up. This is a school-wide event, and we highly encourage all students to participate. Sweet, awesome. Are you doing so there is also, oh, gotcha. Alex is outside, but we'll have more information on that later. In terms of the general club announcements, though, CSAF offers a poster competition, and there is a cash reward. So I highly recommend you check out their website for more information on that. You could also message any of our eBoard members, and we would be happy to provide additional information. And then there is also an opportunity to help the club create a demonstration of a cybersecurity concept or a lab, and we will have that team information out shortly. And then also upcoming on September 9th, Tuesday, ISACA's Career Night is going to be happening at Kellogg West. That is an awesome opportunity to meet career advisors, industry professionals, network, and build your resume and career prospects. All right, for those in the room, if I could please ask you to coalesce into the center. These are going to be your future coworkers, supervisors, etc. Please, we don't have to be afraid of each other. Oh, uh-oh. All right. Additionally, we have the mentorship program. The application form will be due on September 7th. That'll be this upcoming weekend. Please fill that out if you are interested. Feel free to take a moment to scan that QR code now if you would like. And then Stephen, if you could post that in the chat. All right. All right. And with that, I would like to introduce Greg. He has been a practicing DFIR and cybersecurity professional for several years now. And he has his own cybersecurity firm, Exhibit A, and he has taken the time out of his day to come speak to us. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. All right. Well, let me go ahead and do a little share and or send a request to be able to share. There we go. But yeah, no, small business is definitely a roller coaster, and it teaches you a lot about what's out there in the world, what businesses actually need, what the different types of providers are that are out there. Um, and essentially, what it really comes down to is how to show your value. As I put here, is becoming a cyber unicorn. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but AI is getting rid of all the entry-level roles. An entry-level person has what, 12, 15 years of experience. It's getting a little bit crazy. So essentially, what worked 5 or 10 years ago isn't going to work for you today. So how do you become the unicorn that everyone wants to work with and hire? And or if you want to go and run something, what does that mean? How do you show value in a market flooded? And by the way, I just want to really point out that in person, I would really make this an interactive presentation. So holler out, get a guest mic, something like that if anything comes up. But yeah, so I've been in cybersecurity tech and technology and leadership and GRC for a little over 20 years now. I'm a CISSP. I graduated from Cal Poly back in 2020. Um, and since then, I've done work for some companies. I've done some work for some large companies, and I've ran my own business in several different ways. Pivoted for a little while into sales, and I think in the last 5 or 6 years, I have gone a little bit gray. Stress has been high. Lot to learn. Um, Okay. So, and also along that way, I also was doing security for international fashion startup, which was a wild ride. Billionaire said, "I want to run a business," and then he just throws gobs of money at it. Super interesting. Okay. So, the evolving cybersecurity landscape. IoT is everywhere. There's a huge increase in IoT-based cyber attacks. Damages are expected to hit 10.5 trillion annually by 2025. Oh my God, that's crazy. Um, the unfilled cybersecurity job role statistic is 3.5 million as of 2 years ago. Sorry, they're a little bit dated, but um, there's a lot of argument on what that actually means. But long story short, it's still hard to get a job. They like to say it's unemployed. It just means that they don't necessarily want to fill it. Um, 62% of cybersecurity jobs now require at least 3 years of experience, even for entry level. It's a catch-22. And 85% of enterprises will adopt cloud-first strategies by 2025, making infrastructure as code, understanding cloud, critical skill. Sorry, I'm just reading off my slide, but really the what that's really saying is that you need to be current with what's actually happening. You need to be able to handle large-scale rollouts of modern infrastructure rather than traditional infrastructure. Learning about how your computer works is super. Learning how servers work is super. But then you need to start thinking, okay, well, if I take this in cloud, is it just a server in the cloud, or am I thinking in terms of Kubernetes, in terms of containers? Am I thinking in terms of short-lived applications or functional applications? One of the big trending platforms right now is Vercel. Vercel is super lightweight. The AI engines that are doing well right now are AI engines that can spin up and spin down on a whim. Same thing with databases. I love Postgre, but Postgre is traditional. It's architectural. But being able to spin it up and spin it down quickly is where it's at. So I'm not really talking cyber so far, but I'm talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about what you're protecting. Um, okay, so I deal a lot with incident response, and in incident response, um, the attackers oftentimes will come in quick. Usually it's in my experience within a couple of weeks. They've usually done what are they called? Uh, Initial access brokers, where basically someone breaks in, they get access, then they sell the access, and then once they sell the access, then the attack happens fast. So you need to realize that the attackers, even though they're not moving around your network, that someone has gained access to your network without you knowing, because when they do attack, it is quick. I'm dealing with one right now that it looks like they were in there about 2 weeks ago. And then once they got back in, they did it over the course of a few hours in the middle of the night. And of course, They didn't have a real security program. They didn't have a 24/7 SOC. Instead, the very, very, very capable IT director, um, although very good at IT, didn't understand the core of security, which is bad things happen when he sleeps. And also that the average time to detect a data breach is 212 days. Um, Generally speaking, I think the reason why that stat is so high is because there's latent breaches all over the place. It's basically just because no one is actively making a mess of your infrastructure doesn't mean that you're not in there. I deal with incident responses all the time where you go in and you realize that there's been several other attacks in there, some of which the business has never even realized have happened. Um, okay, so this is kind of a career presentation, more than just throwing stats at you. But look at what's in demand right now. So cloud security specialist. That means that you need to understand fundamentals, which is what you're learning in school right now. Those are great. Go build yourself a pfSense firewall. Understand VLANs. Go understand your IPv4. IPv6 is gravy, but make sure you're super solid in your IPv4 because by and large we're either dealing in networks or we're dealing in overlay networks where it's an IPv4 stacked on top of an IPv4, usually. DevSecOps. So that basically means that you understand how development flows work. How do you know how code goes from the various stages of initial code and getting checked in and getting quality assured before it goes to production and making sure that you're baking in security not only into the code base but also how secrets are handled and making sure that you don't become a supply chain attack. I am one of my best partners is this company called Uatest, and they're like a competitor to SailPoint, but essentially it's thinking of identity as security. It's not always about them hacking you in really really fancy ways. It's that you have overprivileged users. You have users that should have been canned 3 years ago out of the system when they were canned from the company, but they never were, and now their credentials, which was terrible. It was I'm gonna make one up. Summer 2025 exclamation point. That passes all the rules that you can throw at it. But it's a terrible password. It goes into a data breach leak site, and then you get access to, you know, a business email compromise or maybe a VPN or all sorts of stuff, especially when you layer in the fact that good cyber hygiene doesn't come in. And then there's a lot of money in AI and ML security right now. If you go look at any of the big companies, so go take a look at a really good example of this is Salesforce with their AI Einstein product. There's what are they called? The shiny brokers, I think they're called. They have been attacking Salesforce type platforms, and they're doing it through poor governance. They're not really advanced attackers. What they are is they're attackers that are tricking users into installing enterprise applications, just like you have in Microsoft 365, but you're doing it over in the Salesforce cloud. Go take a look at what Salesforce does. Go onto the Salesforce website and look at all the different products they have. It's not just a CRM; it's a whole like side of a business. They're a giant. They're I don't know, got to be top 20 in the overall tech in Palo Alto. I mean, they're huge. So a lot more than just CRM. So make sure you're thinking of the business as a whole. Um, Okay, so traditional stuff, although still around, and you need those skills. I'm seeing them outsourced a lot. I'm seeing them go into kind of a general category where it's hard to promote out of it. So if you're going into GRC, I'm in GRC. If you're only doing GRC, people say, well, why am I paying you? Why don't I just buy Vanta? Or why am I paying you? It's just a checkbox, or my platform already tells me half of that. And honestly, they're kind of right. If all you're doing is compliance and just checking boxes and getting compliance reports, then you're not really adding a ton of business value other than getting them compliant, which is necessary for business. But you could be doing so much better. Think about how compliance can really help the business achieve its goals, which means you have to know the business's goals. Ask the questions, be in the business leading meetings, figure out what they're trying to accomplish, what their difficulties are, instead of just thinking, I'm a GRC guy. I need to make sure that the various standards are adhered to. IT support, firewall admins, they're all things that are getting outsourced very very well these days. So yeah, it's to try to stay on the more of the cutting edge. Okay. So efficiency is everything. So let's just talk about cyber for a second. Um, you may know what threat hunting is. Going around looking for key indicators. Is it possible for someone who normally works in New York to also log in Las Vegas? Well, you got to find out, is that person in Vegas? Is there a way that you can speed that up? As I was mentioning with Salesforce a second ago, are you looking at just your email and your files, which is where the traditional security perimeter kind of lands? Or are you thinking about the modern infrastructure? So are you thinking of your communications platform, or your CRM, or your financial platforms, banking platforms? Um, can we get visibility into those, and then can we figure out what our baselines are for those? Let's say that you look at your logs and you see that 200 gigabytes is transferred by Frank um, at 2 a.m. on a Thursday night. And you're like, oh my God, this is a terrible thing. Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you. It probably is, but without a baseline, is it? Maybe Frank is one of the admins and Frank is running a backup job under his name, which is weird. But maybe he's been doing it every night forever. And this is the first time you noticed it. But you didn't do a baseline, so you don't know. And part of the speed and the efficiency means that you're not always waiting on someone to give you answers, but you've already kind of asked ahead of time. So be proactive, think logically. Most of the security problems that I solve and that I work with people that solve are not terribly complicated. They're asking simple business questions, and you get lost in the details. Do I care if you're using this product or that product? Not really. What I care is that people can't log in from places that they aren't currently at, or that they aren't logging in from devices that I don't know about, or that data is not moving onto um, an authorized platform. Those are all things I care about. Now, how do I achieve that? We can talk about the technologies, but don't think in terms of tools, think in terms of solutions. What am I solving? What am I trying to do? And then work backwards into, okay, well, what tools hopefully do I already have that I can use to achieve that before you just start buying tools? One of the major things in our industry is we just love buying tools, spending money, and then we have under adoption of the whole bunch. Okay, so you guys are in school. You've probably gone on ChatGPT and you've had it crank out some words for you. That's true. And you may have even had it crank out some code. Um, well, that's not going to stop. Once you're in the business world, in terms of that efficiency and that speed, you need to figure out, how can AI make things faster for me? How can I use AI in a way that's company authorized to get faster answers or to get better insights? Some of that stuff, like, hey, is it possible that Maria is currently in Las Vegas? Well, maybe I can use AI to look to do a call over to the company calendar and see that Maria is set to be on vacation right now, or just think like I said, think from a solution point of view and work it backwards, because there's a lot of ways of doing this, and you'd be surprised how many of your coworkers and your and people that work around you, if you said, "Hey, I'm trying to solve this problem. I'm trying to do this, but I'm not sure what tool." Everyone has an idea because everyone's got all these tools, but you'll be the one in the room who is looking to actually solve something, and you're the one who is going to get all that credit, because there's a lot of tools out there, but there's less people that are actually solving the right problems, which goes back to maximizing impact. Um, okay, so we have all these security tools, but then you have other tools. You have other tools like Notion or Trello. So organization, project management, being able to stay on top of what you're doing, and figuring out what stuff is actually taking all your time, and then asking yourself the question, can I automate this? Try to automate yourself out of a job. I promise you won't. If anything, you'll get a promotion for it. Um, but otherwise, you can lean on, common vulnerability scanners like Nessus or Burp Suite, and then use that to streamline vulnerability assessments. And I don't just mean get more vulnerabilities identified. It's like, what are we actually trying to do here? Are we trying to solve all the vulnerabilities? The answer is no, by the way. And are we trying to reduce the risk for the business to a reasonable amount? Yes. Okay, well, what's that mean? Define what the outcomes are and then walk your way back. I keep on, the more technical I get in my career, the more I realize that you need to bring it back to business outcomes. That's really what they care about. Okay, so emerging cyber threats. We have deep fakes, quantum computing, supply chain vulnerabilities. We have things like the SolarWind breach. Those things are happening more often. You have, of course, your traditional phishings, and the phishings are never going to stop. Again, computer keyboards are hit by people, so you can trick the people, and then you get them phished. Now the question is can you detect that? Can you stop it before it becomes damage? And the answer is absolutely yes. You just have to think like an attacker, think logically. If someone and also use the concept of assume breach. I don't care how good of a blue teamer you are, someone will break through. Some user will make a mistake. You will leave something unconfigured properly. Make sure that it's not going to blow up the whole company. Find your niche. Um, so malware analysis, pen testing, cloud native security, you need to be a specialist. I know we need to learn about all sorts of things, and that's true. You have to have your base. The pyramid has to have the base, but I'm a big fan of leaning hard into something. Go be really good at something. And along the way, you'll naturally become pretty good at a whole bunch of stuff naturally without actively seeking, how do I solder? How do I decode an SPI bus? How does it doesn't really matter. I'm not really thinking very straight, but the important thing is specialize. It's not a bad thing. It's not scary, but become really good and do a presentation where people go, "Oh my God, I never thought about it." That's what you want. And I promise you, it will stand out. And that also comes into the professional branding point of this. When you do really interesting things on a very specific thing, you get noticed. You get you get presentations, you get invitations. You have important people asking you questions. You can go to places like DEF CON and network and show off what you got. You can have your GitHub, your LinkedIn, and your blog showing off everything that you're doing. And honestly, in this industry, it moves so fast. I'm less worried about you leaking some proprietary formula that no one will ever think of, and more about getting you the exposure so that you're noticed by people who can actually do something with it. So don't be afraid of getting out there. And if you don't have anything that's groundbreaking yet, that's okay. Show off what you have. Show off your process of getting your Security Plus, or show off how you set up NetStumbler, or how you're hacking a $20 Chinese security camera. It doesn't really matter. Show that you're interested in something. Um, Now, I'm a big fan of these sponsored publications. So, I mean, I love textbooks, sure, but CrowdStrike, a global threat report, Scientia, information risk information study, which is called IRIS. Love it, so good, so backed by so much information. Unitrends, they have a whole IR planning guide. These things I mean, yes, there is a little bit of marketing in there, but mostly these are the researchers, the people who are career, educational people who get to work at companies that have the budget to put, 500 hours into a publication. So read them. They're filled with useful things that are more than just reading Twitter posts or scrolling TikTok and seeing what's currently moving in the news cycle. This is structured, the better ones. So so again, leveraging tools like AI, staying ahead of emerging threats, and working on your professional brand. Those are all super important, and really happy for everything that FAST has done for me and that Cal Poly has done for me. Um, and I just want you to think critically and ask questions and network and be around. Anyway, that's all I have. I don't want to go in too deep into a career talk that isn't driven by you. So can we take some questions and talk about things?
All right, yeah. Thank you for that, sharing that with us, Greg. I actually do want to ask you all a question because Greg brought up a really, really good point, and it is kind of driving the way I'm looking at how to approach running this club for all of you, and that is creating something of value for yourselves, either improving your home life or if you are working at something. Um, at work, I want to take a moment to go around the room and see if you guys could all share briefly two, three sentences about something that you've done that you're proud of, that you're excited about, whether or not it's for work, whether it's for home, personal improvement, whatever it is. Just have fun with it. Um, Kind of like what Greg was saying. Find something that you're passionate about and pursue that passion, and the skills will come. So I'm going to start with Sammy.
Yeah,
I got your name right? All right.
you got my name right.
Let me toss you the yeah, okay.
You. So, my first question is actually about certs. Um, when I was in high school, my cybersecurity program and club had us do test out equivalents of the CompTIA certs, which is like the lab-based equivalents. Are they recognized in the industry, or will I have to go out and get the CompTIA as well?
Um, so you're specifically asking if the test out certs are worth it?
Well, I already have them. Like, do I still need to go ahead and seek out a CompTIA cert as well in addition to it, or
I,
should I just move forward?
Move forward. If you can, okay, so let's say you took a test out cert for a particular domain. Um, if I were to talk to you about that domain, can you speak on it? Can I ask you some questions and you can speak intelligently about that information?
Yes, I can.
That's enough. You basically, if okay, so first of all, there's a couple of jobs out there, specifically in the government space, that require certain certifications to qualify for certain government requirements. Security Plus hits a lot of those the checkboxes specifically. But other than that, CompTIA or Test Out or Offensive Security or any of the other ones, ISC squared, um, they're mainly there to give the company an idea that you might know something about this, but everyone is very skeptical of that. So no, do not go back and take additional certs simply to have them. They will not get you jobs. Spend the time that you would have taken to do the equivalent version of the CompTIA to go build out your GitHub. Go show that you're researching and building stuff.
All right. I also have another question. So, in the industry for cybersecurity and in general, how much do you guys trust the zero data retention policy for these AI endpoints? Because I know personally that certain government organizations, even though these companies say that these are zero data retention endpoints, they still don't allow any classified information to hit those endpoints, and they still want to do it on their own separate GovCloud instances. In private industry, do you guys trust these zero data retention endpoints for these AI models, or do you guys prefer to self-host when dealing with confidential information?
It depends on who you're talking about. It's not just the industry, but it's also company specific. Some companies are a lot more proactive than others. Um, so, this isn't my exact specialty, so I'm trying my best here. But um, let's see. So there's a number of AI providers that will attest to certain levels of privacy and confidentiality and have certain certifications that they run a certain way and they have privacy policies written a certain way that should comply with the goals of the business. That said, there's companies that I've worked with who say, well, every time that they promise these things, they keep on going back on their promises, so they'll only self-host. So it doesn't matter how much the cloud attests that it's okay. These companies will never ever trust them. So there's them. There's kind of a personality thing. Government obviously isn't. It's not. That's not an opinion, but that's the way it's written. You have to abide by certain approved infrastructure in order for that to be allowed to run government workloads. So there's no real room for wiggle room on that one. And other than that, it's yeah, it is does that platform attest that it meets the privacy and security requirements of your business? That's really what it comes down to. Sorry if it's not an exact answer, but this is a really fuzzy space.
Understood, understood. And I have one last question, if I may ask you. Like whenever somebody's inside the walls, they have access to your system, but they haven't started causing damage. What heuristics can you use to at least know that? Because generally, especially in these larger services, these log files are absolutely massive. I'm talking like gigabytes of raw data, and it's impossible to scrutinize it all. And how are you supposed to know that, your system's been compromised when there's no damage, there's no symptoms, yet?
Sure. Well, it doesn't matter how large your log files are, as long as you know what you're looking for. So look at login history. Has this user ever logged into this machine before? And if the answer is no, then all of a sudden now, out of 10 million logs, you now have it segmented down to, let's say, 5,000 logs, because now we're only talking about systems that this particular user has touched. And then you say, okay, well, this user, your heuristics have determined this user isn't normally on the system, and now it is, and that's a win. If you don't have the heuristics or baselining, then you see a successful login from a user onto a system, and nothing will ever trigger. So that baselining is so important. Otherwise, like you said, how do I know that a legitimate login to a system that the user was allowed to log into is actually an attacker getting a foothold? I think it's your question, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, yeah, it is, and it goes a bit more general than that. Just like, how do I know that the system that one of our systems has been compromised when there's no symptoms? I only have these log files, and I have to analyze them all constantly, and I can't scrutinize every single action because that's quite literally impossible.
No, you're not supposed to. I've actually had a lot of people say this, especially IT people that have been doing this for a long time and may have not know how modern SIMs work, seams, whatever. Um, and and I tell them, like, you need to put all your logs in a central repository. And they say, well, that's going to be a lot of logs. I said, sure is. And they say, well, how are we supposed to review them? I mean, how many hours a day do I need to be scrolling through them? I'm like, if you're doing it that way, you're doing it wrong. It shows, so it really doesn't matter how many logs you have. It matters what your logic is for how you look through them. So you would have a detection rule set up. The detection rule would say, look at each system and look at the baseline of what users are usually on the system and have a list. You can do this basically with SQL. I mean, that's basically what SIMs are using is they're using a query language. It depends on which SIM you're talking about, but it's querying the SIM to say what users over the past 30 days typically log into this system, and over the previous 30 days, what users usually log into the system, and over the past 5 days, are they the same users or are they different? So now, just by asking those simple questions, you're able. It doesn't matter how many logs, but you're answering simple questions, which can be defined by simple lookup queries or aggregate queries. It's basically saying, okay, how many login events are over the past 90 days? 40,000, between all the different tokens and tickets and everything else. It doesn't matter. You bring all those down into what users or what user IDs or where are they coming from, and you break it down to simple English. You should really go into the open source repository for the SIM Wazuh, um, WAZUH, because a lot of their detection rules are public. And they explain them. They say this is what this detection rule does in English. And then read the language. It starts making sense when you realize that it's just doing a couple of window functions, like basically saying, here's all my data. I'm going to window it over. I'm going to take this data, and I'm going to window it into these chunks, just like that. And then in those chunks, what are my aggregates I'm looking for? In each of these chunks, what users logged in? How many times do they log in during those chunks? If it may be a couple other metrics, and now your detection rule says, am I deviating from those chunks? And if I do deviate, to what level of confidence am I that there's something that's happening? And so it's not just that you're throwing an alert, but also you can throw an alert with confidence. So have you ever read a detection rule before? Not to put you on the spot.
I have, and I've done and I've done it occasionally. I just haven't like built any systems that like alerting you whenever something's in it. Like it's really only like after something happens. Like I'm just gonna go in, try to query and then like find nothing, and then like ask my partner to help me find the problematic log in the CTF or whatever.
Okay. Um, So,
I'm so sorry. If I could interject just a little bit, definitely really appreciate all of the engagement. But I do have a couple of questions online that I was hoping to
Oh yeah.
make sure we get looped in.
uh,
Would
just real quick on that one there, go back and build yourself a Wuzzaw server and play with it.
Understood. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and then for the future though, would we be able to disseminate your LinkedIn to anybody who's interested?
Absolutely.
All right. If you're interested, we can give you Greg's contact. Thank you for all those questions. But we do have a couple online.
Right, you're too late.
Oh, not too late. You're welcome to sit in, listen to the speaker's questions, and yeah. Um, yeah, feel free to grab a seat if you'd like. Um, so Paris Martinez asks, why do you think that jobs are looking for professionals with 3+ years of experience, and what does that mean for students here?
One more time.
Why do you think that jobs are looking for professionals with 3+ years of experience? I'm assuming for entry-level roles. And what does that mean for students here?
Okay. So what that means is that they jobs don't want to teach people anymore. They want people to come in and be functional. And having a degree in of itself doesn't mean you're functional. It means you're teachable with a background. So, so what does that mean for you? For the students that are graduating, it means that you need to come out acting like someone who has 3 years of experience because you don't have it, but you need to act like it. And that's where your GitHub, your proven show of success, the fact that you're actively building labs, you need to make it very clear for the hiring staff that you are functional, you are successful, you are not a gamble, you're a sure thing. That's what you have to get through their head, because otherwise they see someone who just graduated and they don't know if this person is all theoretical, if they chat GPT'd their way through college, if they it happens all the time. I know people that have graduated with technical degrees, and you're wondering what did they do? They seem to have trouble with every single thing on a computer or designing something or whatever their degree is in, and that as an employer, I mean that's what they see a lot of. So that really comes down to the 3 year rule is not hard and fast. If you prove that you know what you're talking about and that you are not a gamble and that you can actually do what the job is asking and more, they won't have an issue with it. They just don't want you to be a purely academic person.
Ooh. The
And
next,
on
oh, my
that,
apologies.
on that same note, on your social media and everything, show that. I know people that my brother-in-law got a job out of the bank. He was a banker and he wanted to get into cybersecurity. And I told him, go on LinkedIn, show your journey. Go on to Try Hack Me, show your journey. Get on some of these uh, discords where you can meet professionals. Go to conferences, meet people. Basically, make yourself reputable and reliable with even though you've only been in the industry for almost nothing.
Cool. A second question we have in the chat is, as someone whose resume and knowledge of cybersecurity space is very far behind, what you would recommend, or what would you recommend to for someone that wants to quickly catch up in the current evolving state of cybersecurity, and how to reflect that within a resume?
Okay. Okay, so let's say you're super far behind, and you want to be hireable as soon as possible. What that means is you don't have time to be a generalist. Um, you don't have years to learn all the fundamentals under the sun. What I'd recommend you do if you want to get a job ASAP without having all the background is what I said before. Go specialize. Go learn something specific, and you can do it to a decent degree pretty darn quick. For instance. Um, Go learn, let's say Microsoft IAM. Go learn Entra. Go learn Entra and yeah, just learn Entra, and you can get a job just on that. There's IAM roles. There's system admin roles, cloud system admin, and knowing your way around Microsoft Entra means that you're going to know your way around a bunch of the Microsoft 365 tenant naturally, but also look at where the breaches are. You can sell yourself really well because knowing how to lock down the conditional access policy, understanding how certificate management works, how device compliance works, understanding the role in third-party multi-factor tokens with what Microsoft already provides, what the weaknesses are in legacy authentication. You're going to learn all of that with Entra, and that's just one technology. And all the certification and training for that's free, by the way. Microsoft has a huge learning course on it. It's all free, and you can get little certs along the way. Anyway, that's just one, but do one thing, and then you can do it a lot faster than hitting up cybersecurity, which is so many roles.
Great advice, great advice. And then we have another question in the chat. And it says you mentioned focusing on projects rather than certifications. For someone who's in a beginner space, is there any beginner-friendly projects you specifically would recommend?
I don't have any. I'd have to get back to you on the specifics, but I'll tell you the general. The general is, and this I was at Scale this year, and there was a talk that really resonated well with me, and that was open source is for everyone. So really what that means is pick a project out there. Doesn't matter how big or how established it is, and get in touch with people who are maintainers of the repo on GitHub and say, I'm new to the field and I want to get involved in open source. Can you find something for me? And they might have something that's non-technical. They might have you editing documentation or something. But now you know, guess who runs those open source free software? Usually senior developers, usually people that have been in the industry for 30 years. These people know everyone. You're going to get to know them. You're going to be part of the community, and you're going to naturally learn how everything else works because you're around them. So get yourself involved in open source, start contributing, and along the way, ask people like me and say, what can I do? Maybe one of the things you could do is go stand up your own Waza instance and start seeing how a SIM actually works. How do I deal with 60 million logs? There's a way. And then since you're in Cal Poly gives you free access to, I don't know which cloud right now, but AWS or Microsoft or something.
Copilot.
So Copilot, okay. Do they give you any free infrastructure right now? AWS or M365?
Yeah, we get $200 a year for AWS credit, and then Microsoft for Azure, you get, I forgot how much it was, but you do use it. I know because I've already used it all. I've already burned through mine.
I see.
Yeah.
Well, also talk to the department chairs. Sometimes they can get you some more. There's more buckets out there. You just have to start asking for them. But especially if you're using them for things that are showing to be beneficial. There's various people in the department who very much want to see you succeed. So don't let that stop you.
I do have a question as well. My name is Michael. So in your experience doing like this cybersecurity and incidents response, what is one of the most overlooked vulnerabilities in small business environments? Like, let's say if I had a client that was a small mom and pop shop that might be like, I don't know, let's say a travel agency. What's one of the most overlooked vulnerabilities that I might be facing in this situation? Hypothetical.
I'm sorry. I think I'm just not running on all cylinders today. One more time.
I guess like okay, so in your experience, what's one of the most overlooked vulnerabilities in small business environments? Like maybe that could be like Windows updates that weren't done or a legacy server running,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay. As an incident responder, this one's really, really easy for me. MFA.
Oh, yeah.
No, I mean it's an eye roll, but it's usually how does your Microsoft 365 accounts do MFA? If it's by per account, what that means is that someone at some point will go into their account and say MFA is annoying and turn it off, or someone will set up a new user and forget to turn it on, or something like that. You need to set up a conditional access policy that makes it enforced. How about remote access? One of my first things as an incident responder is after I ask the MFA question, because it's an eye roll, but I swear to God, it would stop half of it. is how do your external users access your internal resources? And by more often than not, the answer is SSL VPN. So they use something like a sonic wall on the outside, and that has a web-based SSL VPN that they log into. And more often than not, there's no MFA on it. And I don't know why. Again, it's angering just how much we've been preaching this one fix for decade and a half, maybe at this point. And yet there's so many. I'm not going to even pin it on the IT people. If you're a user of a company and you go to log into their VPN and it doesn't ask you for MFA, you've been preached MFA the whole time. Why doesn't it go across the users' heads and say, "Huh, I didn't have to do MFA to get into my company's account. I'm a CFO, I'm a CEO, I'm a director, I'm a person who's a decision maker in the company. Maybe I should bring it up, or I could just ignore it and go on with my job." And more often than not, that happens. And that no MFA on the VPN is a common way in. Um, there's okay, right behind that, there's going to be stale accounts. So
Okay.
accounts that should have been disabled that were never disabled.
Like
Uh,
old users that left the company and they like, and like let's say an assistant manager or something.
got fired and they never got disabled. So that's part of it. Now, on the same token, let's say that you have a system that is not SSO, so it doesn't go against your Microsoft account, but it's standalone. Let's say it's a Dropbox, and they didn't SSO it; it's standalone. So when you let the employee go, you disabled their Microsoft account, but you left their Dropbox account open. The Dropbox account is where, let's say, your company sends all of its e-sign documents, and so you have 10 years of sensitive information sitting in PDFs in there. Well, attackers got it now because the credentials were found on a data breach forum, and they just log in. And maybe there's phishing and stealing of MFA tokens, or maybe there's just no MFA on it at all. Again, I say this just because it's the reality. Is that decent cyber hygiene, good cyber hygiene? By the way, CIS, Centers for Internet Security, has a standard called the Good Cyber Hygiene Standard, which is basically like a subset of CIS 18. It's really basic, and I preach it to companies all the time, saying, here's a 10-page packet. It's very light. Take a look at these. You should be doing pretty much all of them.
Which was that? What resource was that?
Centers for Internet Security, CIS, and it's called Good Cyber Hygiene. But it's a subset of a standard called the CIS 18. So it's a much quicker and easier standard to read than something like NIST 800-171 or ISO 27001, which are also wonderful standards, but they're very
They're like
lengthy.
super technical. I'm barely going through those in my auditing class, and it's just like it's a great framework, but it's a
Well,
lot.
it,
And
it,
trying to go
it,
through ISACA and everything is hard.
it's
Well,
very
it's
it's very
yeah.
control heavy, lots of controls. So you have to have a company that's willing to put the time in to do all those controls, and that's a lot of controls. So if you have a company that isn't really mature enough to want to look at those, then you give them the lightweight version and say, listen, I know you don't want to go through that whole thing. At least have a look at this. Each of these are important. Have a look. These categories are super important. And that can hopefully kind of get their brain moving, and then we can move them over to ISO 27001 or NIST 800-171 or something like that. And,
Oh,
and that's assuming that they're in a non-regulated industry where they're not forced to do anything. A lot of these companies, they are on their own good merit to do what they want to do what's good for their customers and good for them. And it doesn't mean they're always making good decisions.
alrighty. I think we have time for one, maybe two more questions, and then we have a little bit of a closeout. I do have one online from Justin. I am a beginner in this field and have been trying to take advantage of available resources. I have been exploring TryHackMe and am enrolled in a Google cybersecurity course pursuing Sec Plus. Are there any other great resources for beginners that you would recommend from your experience?
Um, yeah, I would just say build. Go thing. Get out of the theoretical and just go build stuff. Um, that's really what it comes down to. There's so many people that preach all these high and mighty zero trust everywheres, and or kind of like how I mentioned MFA a bit ago, and I heard in the room kind of like a little bit of laugh, kind of like, it's the simple stuff that's important, but also, as I mentioned earlier, to become hireable and to become highly marketable, um, get playing around with new stuff. So let's say you have Copilot. How can I use Copilot or Security Copilot to better secure a company faster with less resources and better? How do I make sure they don't make bad mistakes? Ask yourself high-level questions of how can I do this, and then either go figure out how to do it or work with people more experienced than you to have them help you. But don't just say I want to learn security. Say I want to learn how to defend. I want to learn how to attack. I want to learn how to detect. I want to figure out what you want, and that might take some research. It takes work to figure out what you want to study, and then dive in deep. And if you don't think it's the right way, it's okay. Keep on going because, like I said, specialize in something, and it'll pay off.
All right. Thank you for that. Um, all right. I think the next class is getting ready to come in. So we'll thank you so much for your time, Greg. Um, for those yes, thank you. Thank you. You're getting applause in the room.
Oh, very good.
Appreciate the energy. Um, yeah. If you are interested in connecting with Greg after this meeting, please message any one of our eBoard members. We would be happy to supply his LinkedIn. And then should we also direct them to your website for your firm?
Yeah, you can put them over there. And also, I try to go to as many of the SoCal SEC meetups, which are regular,
Mm.
which Josh Chin puts on with NetForce. And they're a really nice way to kind of get together and just eat a hamburger and talk.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much. And have a good day, Greg. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Bye.
Uh,